So this whole thing started in 2016, and during this clip, me and Jesse were going to war, and whoever got the first point would kind of go down in history as the guy that won this role. And I managed to get that omoplata sweep, and you can see right there in Jesse's eyes that he vows eternal revenge on me. And here's the rematch about 7 years later. So when I pull that guard, you can see he cuts inside my knee, and he threatens that over-under pass, and then he gets closer, breaks that second layer of space, and there's the third where his head connects to my neck. He's making me carry his weight the whole time. You'll see he's on his tippy toes, and he's opening my head and spine up. So I attack that little loop choke to get his head up, pop his shoulder, clear my knee. A little bit more energy, and I gotta force the single leg X here a little bit, because if I don't, he's just gonna keep pressuring me and tiring my legs out. So he's doing a really good job of using his weight strategically to burn my legs out. So I was willing to expend a little more energy just to take him out of there. Here he goes again. Works his way back in, and I do that same little defense where I pop his shoulder or elbow and I slip my knee inside. And now I can just rest my leg against his body in a more comfortable position. And I also like that he exited and re-entered there into the knee cut position. And again, I'm forced to burn that energy. You can see I'm already starting to look a little bit tired. And that's because he's constantly putting all of his weight on my top leg. He's barely touching the floor. But when I threaten that loop choke, he's forced to respect it. And when he takes that upright vertical position, I switch to this Delahiva guard position or tripod guard. Just because I know I don't want to be there carrying his weight for the full round, because I'm going to get exhausted and he'll pass me. He does try kind of a bit of a diving pass there, and I block it, and I use that to enter to this shallow X position. I just get up because I felt that he was heavy on the other leg and light on the leg that I had. I try to punch in my underhook there, but we ended up shifting back to the center. He gets a nice half lasso there, which I would say is probably one of the nicest frames in jiu-jitsu, which is his left foot on my shoulder. It makes it very difficult to pass, and he tries to combo that with an arm drag, and I step over his head and I rotate through. So one more time, if we just break that sequence down a little bit more slowly, you see he put some pressure on me with that half lasso. And then as soon as I kind of angle my body, he opens up my arm, pulls my tricep, but I block his hip with my knee, which kind of a close battle here. And I grab his head to drive him back to the ground, which does expose an underhook. But instead he uses it to dive into a deep half position. But this is kind of my favorite pass right here for the deep half position, where you just kind of melt it to the side pocket. I ended up sprawling around, walking to pursue the back. And if I'm not mistaken here, he gets a pretty nice guard recovery. I'm a little bit too far forward. I walk myself back south just because I know he has the ability to bump me. I do want to start attacking here, but you can see he's very defensive in his turtle here. I can barely get my hand in to grab the collar, and he starts pursuing my wrist. So it's very likely here he's going to sit and rotate towards me. I do want to attack the back, but at the same time, I want to be mindful not to get too aggressive and give up my position, which almost happened here. And he ends up getting the underhook too, but I'm happy for that top position. I prefer to be on top with Jesse because he does a really good job using his body weight to pressure me. First, I put him on his back as much as I can, but you can see he uses that underhook, gets back on his side again, and I use that opportunity to get my underhook. Nice head-to-head position and shoulder under chin. This kind of tripod knee cut position, I do really like this, but Jesse's pretty tricky from this position, so I'm definitely a little bit cautious. And you can see, because of the length of my arm, it's harder for me to maintain that underhook. So I use the cross face, and I turn his face away, and I start to drive him onto his back a little bit, and I try to swim my hand inside of his thigh. But again, Jesse just doesn't leave a lot of gaps for me to work with. So I'm using the cross face, and I'm hoping that he dislikes that enough where he'll open up his game to try to get me out of the position. You see how long I'm just sitting there, and there it is. I think about going for the knee bar, but he rotates back, and I use this opportunity to backstep. He gets a re-guard. I almost get rolled over my head here, and I was worried about the knee bar, so I just blocked his foot, and we'll see again here. He elevates. I post on my hand. I'm thinking about the knee bar, but I don't have good control, so I bail, and I just try to reset my position. But I have that collar grip, so I want to use it to pass. So what I do is I kind of get up onto my right foot, and I try to hip switch here. He immediately sits up on his arm, keeps his frame active, and creates a butterfly hook. But when he sweeps me here, my hand is actually stuck underneath his body. So I post on my hand and then my head, which is probably not the safest thing for my neck. And then I start to get worried about my leg. So you can see my hand shoots to his foot. I push his knee and I clear my knee. And I'm trying to get back on top, but he comes up too. And hopefully he sits back to guard. But instead he comes up and he tries to kind of collar drag me. And as we go through it again, slow motion, you'll see I kind of sense it coming, so you'll see how I shift the weight out. So here, as he's coming up with the cross collar especially, here's the tell, that step. So I shift the weight to my other foot and I step out. And I felt that now he's probably going to jump guard. And when he jumps guard, that's my opportunity to pass right off the pull, because that's when he's going to have the least established guard possible. There it is. And it's not that this is specific to his game, that it's more so that a lot of people do this. Kayotera used to do this actually, where he'd pretend to go for a takedown and then use that to pull guard. So strategically it does make sense. It's an excellent way to pull guard, but if you can time it, there's always a great opportunity. Again, with Jesse, getting those underhooks is it's very challenging. So I have to be a little more attentive with my crossface. I go for the Kanto choke, but I know I don't really have it. And I try to feed the lapel for the choke here, but he's making his lat sit very wide, so it blocks the feed. This time I get my hand in a little bit deeper, still very cautious about the roll, but this time I get greedy, I chase. And even though I was losing the back, I managed to salvage with a little bit of a rear triangle, side rear triangle position. I don't quite have a great angle, but I recognize that he's trapped and I want to try to capitalize on the position. So you see me trying to roll out his wrist, but he does a very nice job escaping and back up. Starting in that combat base position, I get my two favorite grips here, but he breaks the grip right away. That cross collar and sleeve, for me in guard, it's the gold standard. And here he is pressuring me again, but I think he's a little more tired now. Never mind, scratch that. Now he's coming in with heavier pressure than before. And that's when I'll sprint a little to get in and force that single leg X, because I know that I'll actually expend net less energy by sprinting a little bit, getting to a good position, instead of sitting there getting cooked by his pressure. I use that long step pass, and all I do, watch again, is I pass to one side, but I step back a little. I drop my head, I park my hips sideways, and I clear the leg. But I know Jesse's never going to give me that pass. So as soon as I get that expected re-guard motion, I pin his leg and I hop around to the other side. So I'm definitely taking advantage of my length here. And you'll see I don't let go of my grips until I close that space. And there's that neon belly. And just because he's so good at the underhook game, I go to neon belly a lot with him. Because when I'm in side control, you'll see it's a lot easier for him to get that underhook. A big part of it is that's his game, playing that underhook position, but also the length difference. I want to be very mindful of that. He really doesn't accept bad positions. That is one thing about Jesse's game. You can see I managed to somehow fall into a triangle, and I'm like, okay, I'm definitely finishing this, because if I don't know if I'll get another submission. He's tired, but I'm tired also, so I'd rather expend that energy. And when he stacks me, I use that to cut an angle and get the finish on the triangle, and that's the end of the round. I hope you guys enjoyed.